going on YouTube? Thanks for tuning in. If you guys haven't seen my last video, I recently picked up a TDI that needed a head gasket and a bottom end rebuild. I didn't know this when I got it, so I'm kind of upset. But if you guys haven't seen that video, go watch it so you're up to date on what's going on in this video. I just got my pistons back from the machine shop. I had to buy a couple used ones, but I basically took the used ones I got and the old ones I had, and we made the best set out of what I had. So I did order some bearings, connecting rod bearings and piston rings we have right here. Here's the bearings and the piston rings. And what we're going to do today is hopefully get the rings on the pistons, drop the pistons down in with the connecting rod bolt or the bearings. Now, I didn't want to reuse these bolts. If you guys have and has been successful in the past, let me know down below because I'm curious, but I did not want to reuse them. So I ordered some with some assembly lube, and unfortunately, FedEx decided that they were not going to bring me my package. It said it was delivered yesterday, and there was no package outside. So I'm kind of stuck, but I do need to get working on this and get it back together because it's already been apart longer than... Since the last video, I did hone out the cylinders with it in the car. I didn't get a chance to record it, but if you guys ever want to do this, the TDI engines have oil squirters down in there, so you can't run the hone all the way down in. So what you can do is you get a piece of plastic or a piece of wood and you cut it out to the shape. Well, obviously that's a circle, but you cut it out to this size and put it down in the bottom so your hone does not get caught on the oil squirter. The very bottom where the oil squirter is, your piston rings don't go that far down in the cylinder. So I'm hoping this works. It should be all right. I got to clean up the block a little bit more, but it's not looking too bad. Really like to get the pistons dropped in, and I won't be able to bolt them up. I'll just have to lube up the crank and do all that fun stuff later whenever I get this assembly lube and connecting rod bolts. Other than that, I'd like to swap out the oil pump. I didn't show you guys, or I might have showed you guys, but that was a blob of plastic that was melted in my pan, and underneath the pickup tube has a giant freaking blob of plastic that I pulled out of it. So I will be swapping out the oil pump. I'm hoping the intermediate shaft bearings are okay. I heard that's a weak point on these engines, but I don't have time anymore. I just got to get it back together. If you notice in this video, compared to the last video, I do have the turbo off. I had a brand new turbo come with the car, so I figured if I'm this far into it, I might as well just swap that out. And I'll show you, I actually made some EGR delete block off plates. I basically took the tube that has the same flange like this. I cut the tube off and just welded a bolt in there, welded it shut, and made it flat. So that way I can bolt that to the back of the intake manifold and the exhaust manifold and get rid of this EGR cooler. And then all I'll have to do is connect these two hoses. So that should be pretty easy. I guess I'll have to connect this hose to something as well. I'll figure that out then. But here it is. Hopefully I can help you guys out. I'm sure there's other people that have done this in the past, but most people, when it comes to tearing apart the bottom end, take the engine out of the car, and I just did not have time for that. I have piston for cylinder number 1. I'm gonna get so much shit for doing this to this pool table, but I'll have you know I got the pool table for free, and it's really kind of a cheap pool table. So we have our piston rings here. I haven't done this since freaking high school. But we're going to take our piston rings out. They're wrapped up and they're actually labeled 1, 2 and 3, and they show you, let me get it the right way here. They show you the positions that they go in. So that's kind of nice. But first you're going to take your oil ring. There's 4 of them in here. And we're going to put the oil ring down on the 3rd groove where the oil ring goes. So I'm going to need 2 hands to do this. They do make a tool to open up the piston ring. Basically, you don't want to open it farther than you have to slide it down. I almost forgot to add, when you're doing this, please pay attention to the rings. Usually they are labeled top and bottom, so make sure you're putting them on the correct way. It fought me a little bit. The inside of the oil ring wanted to come apart from the outside, but that is on. Now we're going to grab, I believe they call this the 2nd compression ring. We're going to carefully put that on there. It should be easier than the oil ring. 2nd ring is installed. Now we are going to install the primary compression ring. Same deal. Just kind of stretch it on there. Okay, so now that we have all 3 rings on, we can move on to the next piston. I do have a piston ring compressor here for when we install the pistons. Before you install them, you want to line up the gaps in the rings. You want to stagger them. So you want to start on one side, and then the next ring will be 180 degrees on the other side for the opening, and then back 180 degrees. At least that's how I learned to do it. You guys may know of a different way or prefer a different method of doing it. Some people, I think I've heard of people doing them like in thirds instead of 180, but it doesn't really matter where they sit right now since we're not putting it in yet. But that is my little tutorial on how to install piston rings. The next thing we need to do before we can install the pistons is the bearings. All the old bearings are already out. I think I have some in this box, just so you can see what they look like. So no like major scoring or anything, just normal wear. But if they don't just fall right out for you, once you take the cap off, and you got to pay attention, you don't want to mix up your caps, and you want to pay attention to which way they go. But I'll take it off here. Basically, when the bearing sits in there, you can kind of just push it around with your thumb to pop it out if they don't pop out. You can tap on them gently with a screwdriver or a punch if you need to, but you really shouldn't. And now we'll install the new rings. Sorry, we'll install the new bearings. Pay attention to the little indent here and the little indent on here, because the bearings will sit in there nicely. Also, a tip, depending on what you're working on, most Volkswagens, if not all Volkswagens, use bolts for the connecting rod caps. When you're installing your pistons and rods, if you have studs, you can put a little piece of rubber hose or line over the studs so they don't scratch the crank if they get against it when you're putting it down in. Here my bearings are, and basically I'm just going to line up that notch with that notch there. Make sure they are center. And easy as that. It fits right in there like a glove. Now we'll do the same thing for our cap. Obviously, we would lube this before we install, but I don't have assembly lube, so we're gonna have to wait on that step. So that is 1 out of 4 ready to go. I'm going to go take care of the rest of the rings and bearings, and we'll see you in a bit. Alright guys, as you can see, all the piston rings are installed, all the bearings are installed, and I want to stop the video here. We're going to end the video for now. If you guys are still watching and you guys watched through the whole video, please drop a thumbs up, a like, give me a comment, something, so I actually know that you guys are watching my videos and not just kind of skipping through them. If you are skipping through them, that's fine, but if you're hearing me talk, please leave a thumbs up, leave me a comment, something. For those of you that are new to the channel and don't know me, you guys are probably like, did I really just watch this guy put piston rings on these pistons on his pool table? Yes, he did, and yes, this thing will be back together and it will run. I'm just waiting on those connecting rod bolts, so I can't go any farther tonight. I want to stress, please be very careful if you're doing the rings when you're installing them on the piston. I actually did end up breaking one, so where is it? Right here. One of the oil rings, because I was fighting with the inner ring and the outer ring. What I ended up doing was just put the inside part of the ring on the piston first, and then put the outer part of the ring around it. But just take your time, guys. You don't want to break piston rings and have to use the old ones, because why the hell did you buy new rings if you're just going to use the old ones? But that being said, thanks for watching, guys. We'll get this thing running soon. Let me know what you think below, if you think this thing's going to run or not. I know it will, but if you guys don't believe me, I guess you'll have to keep watching. Thanks.
I want to